Hey y'all, this is Who Dat in the Six. I just wanted to say that I was actually a little bit surprised about the rankings. And again, sorry that I'm saying this out a little late, but for the college football rankings, I have to say the committee has done a pretty good job for the most part, at least for the top 6 teams. So again, great job there. You have Georgia at 1, deservedly so, absolutely dominating, and quite frankly, had it not been for the rain, it would have been an absolute blowout. It would have been a blowout in Athens, Georgia. So good job there putting Georgia at number 1. I disagree a little bit with putting Ohio State at 2. I know that the game that they had, which they won 21-7 against the 1-win Northwestern team, was impacted by weather. I understand that. But again, their issue was on the offensive line. It called for a good run game. Theirs was not great. They were getting beat on the line of scrimmage. It was nothing. It was 7-7 at halftime. Yes, that's right. 7 to nothing. 7-7 at halftime. And you're telling me that Ohio State, who were a little bit unconvincing, deserves to be ahead of Michigan, who beat Rutgers, by the way, 52-17. They put up 50. It was a dominant win. They struggled a little bit, yes, but then they absolutely pulled away. So dominant in the end. I personally would have had Michigan at 2, Ohio State at 3. You could swap them around. It will sort itself out in the last week of the season before the Big Ten championship game. But again, generally speaking, I would have just swapped those 2 out. But I see how they understood. I see why they'd put Ohio State at 2 over Michigan. But not that I agree with it. But TCU finally getting to the top 4. Good job, committee, for actually listening to the fans. Good job for finally respecting wins. Because they are, I know TCU has been unconvincing in their wins at times. I also know that TCU, for the most part, have had to make big second half comebacks in almost all their games. But their resume speaks for itself. Beating a number 13 Kansas State. Beating a top 25 ranked Kansas in an undefeated matchup. Having to beat Oklahoma State. Having to beat all of those guys out there. And generally speaking, they will have a chance to continue that resume when they face the University of Texas in Austin. So good luck to them. I hope y'all win. If you don't, you're helping these following 3 teams out a lot. Number 5, Tennessee, yes. Good on the committee for putting them down out of the top 4, but not too far out of the top 4, because Tennessee did get blown out. Georgia absolutely dominated right from the word go. It honestly should have been 27-3, not 6, 3, not 27-13, not 27-6, 27-3. Even when they fumbled on the first possession, they absolutely dominated this entire game. Tennessee had penalties galore. Couldn't stop anything. Couldn't stop Stetson Bennett at his best. It literally took rain for you to be able to stifle a Georgia offense that looked like it was running away like a freight train. So, but again, you deserve to be at 5 because you are the best one-loss team, having absolutely trounced LSU, having absolutely trounced Kentucky when Kentucky was still ranked. You beat Alabama in Neyland Stadium. You do have good wins on your resume. You did beat Pitt when Pitt was ranked, though Pitt is not great now. But Pitt was ranked when you beat them, though you did require overtime. But again, and I say that you did well against LSU. I'm going to get to them in a bit, but you absolutely blew out my LSU Tigers in Death Valley. So for that, well done. I'm moving on to Oregon. Oregon, great job. You do have some convincing wins against ranked and unranked teams. You did get blown out by Georgia. and it did happen in week 1, I believe, and it was done by what, 46 points. Oof. But good job fighting back. You deserve to be at number 6, and good on them. The committee had my LSU Tigers at 7. I was pleasantly surprised when they gave us 10, but I thought we should have been like maybe 15 or so. We should have been anywhere between like 13 to 15. I would not have had us in the top 10, even though I'm an LSU fan. But you put my LSU Tigers at 7 after beating Bama, which is impressive. Like, great job to my LSU Tigers. I talked about how we managed to absolutely outcoach Nick Saban in Tiger Stadium with 2 consecutive top 10 wins. 2 top 10 wins in 3 weeks, because the only reason why I'm saying 2 in 3 weeks is because we had a bye before beating Bama. So 2 consecutive wins against top 10 opponents. Yes, Ole Miss was top 10. Let's remember that. They were top 10. Yeah, Ole Miss was top 10 at the time that my LSU Tigers blew them out by 25 points. And number 8, they put out, I believe they put USC. USC does not have a ranked win. They are 8-1. Let's not lie to ourselves here. But I would have personally put USC at around 9 or 10, because they haven't had a single convincing win. And that brings me to my number 9 team. Not mine, but the committee's number 9 team, and that was Alabama. I mean, you lost to Tennessee. You lost to my LSU Tigers. Nobody else is really ranked on your schedule. Okay, maybe Texas, but Texas wasn't exactly ranked when you beat them either. So, committee, I mean, explain that one to me. And finally, number 10, Clemson. What? The ACC is absolutely trash. And you mean to tell me that fucking Clemson, who gets blown out as soon as they face a team that is somewhat competitive on the road. Syracuse, like, they beat Syracuse, Wake Forest, North Carolina State, and Florida State as their good wins. Okay, that sounds hypocritical, and I'm talking about how we lost to Florida State, but we lost to Florida State in week 2 and in week 1. They'd already played a game we hadn't, and it was entirely due to special teams. Clemson gets blown the fuck out by Notre Dame. If they beat Notre Dame, I was having them undefeated for the regular season, because the ACC isn't that great. South Carolina ain't that great either. But Clemson gets blown out by Notre Dame. DJ Uiagalelei cannot throw a football. His backup couldn't throw a football. And they lost. Yeah, the scoreline says 35-14, but as far as I'm concerned, it was really 35-7. Those were pity points. And you're telling me that Clemson, in a bad conference, deserves to be in the top 10 over Ole Miss? I know Ole Miss hasn't been that convincing, but they do have a ranked win against Kentucky. And they currently are only a game back of my LSU Tigers, because that's their only loss. And then 12 is UCLA. UCLA is a more balanced team than USC. They're way better than Clemson. I'm sure they'd blow Clemson out if it's on a neutral field. If it's on a neutral field or in California, it is an absolute blowout for the UCLA Bruins. I mean, that really surprises me. But sir, I will tell you later who I think should have been swapped around in my top 10 rankings. Because I wouldn't have had LSU at 7. It's slightly too high. I don't think USC should have been ranked as high as 9, because they haven't been that convincing. Alabama's certainly not at 9. USC not at 8. Alabama's certainly not 9. Certainly not in the top 10. I mean, I know Alabama plays in a tough division. I know Alabama's a good team. I know Alabama has played well most of the time, but their best win has come against either Texas or Arkansas. Their best win came against either Texas or Arkansas. I mean, next week will probably prove something, but As far as the playoff is concerned, those hopes are dead. The playoffs are dead because they lost to Tennessee and they lost to my LSU Tigers. One more win for us, and an Alabama win means that we've already clinched the SEC West. So no, Alabama's not a top 10 team as far as I'm concerned, because the top 10 should have some shot at a playoff. USC does have a shot. UCLA most certainly has a shot. I mean, well, yeah, UCLA definitely has a shot. My LSU Tigers do have a shot. And I think we're the only two-loss team in college football that actually has a shot at making the playoffs. And Ole Miss absolutely has a shot. But they need LSU to lose both games. They need LSU to lose one more game and for them to run the table. And then beat Georgia in Atlanta. But they do have a shot. So put them in the top 10. Get it right, committee, please. But as always, go Tigers.